is Stephanie Choi, and we're here with the Gender-Based Violence Department of KFAM. This video is the first of a three-part video series providing education on the topic of domestic violence for faith leaders, particularly for those who work within the Korean American communities. Many of our clients and survivors either currently attend church or have some sort of religious background, so they've told us that their faith is what has helped them to overcome their domestic violence situations. So we believe by providing education to faith leaders on this topic, they can be better prepared and feel more confident in providing support to those who come forward about their situations.
In this video, we'll start off by defining what domestic violence is, as well as review some common signs or red flags faith leaders should be aware of. The U.S. Department of Justice defines domestic violence as a pattern of abusive behaviors in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over an intimate partner. It's important to note that when we refer to domestic violence, we are not talking about all the violence that occurs within a family. For example, when there is a violence involving children or elderly parents, we refer to that as child or elders abuse, which is dealt with a little differently from domestic violence. Domestic violence can take on many forms, including physical, verbal, emotional, or financial abuse. Some examples involve the abuser using weapons to physically harm the other person, cursing or threatening the partner, and preventing their partner from having their own bank account. In Korean community, it's common for one spouse to be more familiar with the US system when another spouse is not. A lot of them are from Korea, came to the US as they married to their spouse. This dynamic automatically puts one spouse in control since they are the one managing family finances and taking care of or making decisions for the entire family. This doesn't mean that there is abuse going on automatically, but if the spouse is preventing any access to money or limiting their independence, it may be a sign of financial abuse. There are also cases of spiritual abuse where the abuser uses religious belief to justify their abusive behaviors and attack the victim's core belief and sense of identity. For example, the abuser may misuse the scripture to manipulate the victim into submitting or feeling guilty. An abuser can also prevent their victim from attending services, which isolates them from their support network and church community.
Based on these definitions, we'll sometimes receive questions asking, "My partner calls me stupid," or "My partner demands to know my email password," or "My partner hates that I go to church." Are these issues considered domestic violence? To answer these questions, we would have to say it depends. The reality is most people in relationships will have disagreements and arguments with their partners. But what makes a healthy argument different is that it can be resolved through communication and respect for one another. For each case, we would have to refer back to our definition and see if there's a pattern of abusive behavior going on and if there's intention for one person to try to control and harm the other person. Identifying signs of domestic violence can be difficult for those who aren't in the relationship. Abusers often tend to hide their behaviors, and victims are often hesitant to talk about their situations. So what are some of the signs that we can try to take notice of? One sign of domestic violence is if you notice a person is dressed inappropriately for the weather, such as wearing a turtleneck or long sleeves and pants in the middle of the hot summer. Additionally, you may notice bruises or wounds on someone's body, and they may excuse it as an accident, but if you see it frequently, then it can be a cause of concern. Another red flag is when a person isn't allowed to go out anywhere without their partner's permission or needs permission to do anything in general. In such cases, victims often have limited interaction with others and they rarely leave the house. Even if they do go out, they may receive an excessive amount of phone calls and messages from their partners. Within Korean culture, such actions can be seen as acts of love and devotion. So these behaviors may initially be dismissed because we can think to ourselves that this person just cares so much about their partner and wants to make sure they're okay when they're outside. But if the victim is unable to make decisions for themselves or take any other actions without their partner's approval, it could indicate domestic violence. But we need to be mindful of the extent to these behaviors and whether it crosses the line into abusive or controlling territory. Another important indicator is when individuals appear to be emotionally or psychologically unstable or depressed. Many victims of domestic violence experience emotional difficulties, so this can manifest as mood swings, anxiety, or withdrawal from social interactions. Finally, for families and children, abnormal behavior in children can also be a sign of domestic violence. Even babies as young as 3 to 6 months old can experience severe stress when exposed to domestic violence. Children raised in violent homes may exhibit signs of abuse or trauma, which can look like aggression, withdrawal, or constant worry or attempts to protect their parent.
We'll conclude the video by reading out a client testimonial. Hello, my name is A. I met my ex-husband at our church youth group. He was someone I knew for a long time and trusted deeply. Given his dedication to serving others and his strong commitment to education, my parents would always encourage me to pursue a relationship with him. One day, we ended up actually dating, and I had no doubts about our future together. We got married, and for the first year, everything seemed perfect. He was kind and got along well with my family and friends. We continued to be active members of our church, volunteering together and supporting each other's spiritual journey. However, things began to change slowly after the first year. He started becoming more verbally abusive, using profanity, and getting angry at me over small things. When I talked to my mom about this, she just told me that it was normal for husbands to get upset and that I should try to be more understanding and patient. But eventually, things escalated to physical abuse, and I found myself covered in bruises. I would often wear long sleeves and pants to church to hide the marks, not wanting anyone to know what was happening at home. Despite his abusive behavior, he was able to maintain a facade of kindness and supportiveness at church, which made it even harder for me to speak up. No one could ever possibly believe me. The ongoing violence took a toll on my mental health, eventually leading to symptoms of depression. It wasn't until counseling and discussions about domestic violence were brought up that I finally found the courage to seek help and break free from the cycle of abuse. How did this story make you feel? We often ask ourselves, how can such a terrible things happen in our community? How did no one know about this? It's because in reality, recognizing domestic violence is very difficult. In most cases, the perpetrators or abusers are often very charming and have a good reputation in their social circles, and victims are often too ashamed or terrified about coming forward about their situations. Additionally, Korean culture prioritizes achievement and keeping up with the perfect image. So survivors have such a difficult time receiving help because they don't want to admit about their problems to the public. In their mind, they're thinking, I am too ashamed to let anyone know about my failing marriage.
To conclude, understanding the definition and signs of domestic violence is the first step to supporting survivors. Faith leaders are in a unique position of trust and influence, which can play an important role in creating a safe space for healing and seeking help. By providing non-judgmental support and connecting survivors with the correct resources, faith leaders are valuable allies in the fight against domestic violence. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below or call our hotline number or even leave us an email. We'll see you in the next video where we'll discuss how to help survivors and some ways to prevent domestic violence in religious communities. Thank you.